because we're separated, you see. And heaven and earth have been separated. And we wander around an alien presence, not knowing whither or which way we should tend. The Greeks who gave us the cutting of Kronos gave us another cutting story with a warning inside it about a man named Erysichthon. Now, in a green age long before us, after Kronos sighed the heavens, before Orpheus stopped singing, there lived this man named Erysichthon. Strong and proud and wealthy, made his riches mining metals, digging quarries, milling timber. Erysichthon wanted greatness. So he planned to build a palace, a great monument for feasting, entertainment, and carousing, a hall of excess and indulgence for his prowess and his pleasure. And so, in the forest, he went searching for the wood to build his mansion, for the hardwoods everlasting to fulfill his life's ambition, and the forest fell beneath him as he cut into the darkness, and he severed from the mother the green giants of her valley, and he carted off that timber to his mills beside the river, whose deep waters he diverted for the turning of the mill wheel and the cutting of the green wood. But yet he was not happy, for he wanted better timber, harder lumber, for the uprights and the framing, for the arching beams and trusses, for the lattice and the inlay. So he kept his cutting forays, though the earth beneath him trembled, and the beast about him bellowed. And at last, he found the oak tree. Leagues around, as high as heaven, sacred child of Demeter, and in its grove grew ash and aspen, birch and cedar, walnut, chestnut, scented lilac, shaggy redwood, teak, kukui, paduk, and buoy, for this was that great tree at the center. And the goddess, the Earth Mother, came before him pleading that he turn away from harming and he stay his hand from cutting what was numinous and sacred. But Erysichthon, filled with lust for his great plan, pushed past her. And then, with thunder in the valley, he attacked that sacred oak tree, spilling blood from its deep gashes. Red life's blood flowed in the forest, and when he cut across its center, that tree's falling scarred the heavens. And he carted off that timber for his hall and for his table. And the goddess, unforgiving, called her sister to his chamber. Foul famine came upon him and embraced him in his slumber, wrapped her thighs about his belly, licked the salt off of his forehead, drawing sustenance out of him and replacing it with hunger. Leaving appetite unceasing, famine kissed and cursed him. So in the morning, ravenous with hunger, he ran screaming, calling for someone to feed him, as all day he sat at table, eating courses out of counting, and his servants worked all hours, frying, boiling, basting, broiling, baking, poaching, cooking, blanching, and he ate for months, unmoving. Not a crumb escaped his notice. Any drop that splashed beneath him he would fall upon with lapping, more a beast than something human. So he gorged himself on plenty. Still he suffered hunger, and his larder was depleted. So he traded his possessions for more meat and grain to feed on 100 head of cattle, 1,000 pecks and bushels, gone as soon as they were got. And then his wealth began to dwindle, and he studied how to treat it, how to have his cake and eat it. And he thought about his daughter, the one loving and devoted person that was left him. He decided to exploit her, and he sold her into slavery to find the funds to feed his furnace. But still he suffered hunger, and soon it all was lost to him, and he wandered as a beggar, eating filth amidst the ruins of the world he had exploited, while his hunger in his belly, like a mad wolf in the winter, gnawed him on the inside, howling in his belly and in his madness. Erysichthon turned his hunger on himself, and to himself he fed himself, gnawing at the flesh and bone before him, until at last his life was ended. But his disembodied hunger whips around this pendant world. And if you walk the lifeless wasteland that was once the goddess valley, you may hear him whisper warning that if we stand before the great tree sacred at the center, yet we cut it and exploit it for our greed, we too will suffer soulless hunger that no temporal thing can feed. If we cut ourselves off from the earth, where can we go from there? Catching a ride on the Hale-Bopp comet was an idea that had its roots somehow long before perhaps, when we were lunatics shooting for the moon, a closer object. Somewhere in her memoirs, Agnes de Mille observed, "Science has got us doing cartwheels in space. We have reached the moon. Can we reach the face across the kitchen table? Or over the back fence? Or across the railroad tracks? Have we ever thought to explore the universe in the seat beside us? Or the constellations locked up in our own skulls?" It's a question worth pondering. And maybe it's a good time to do that. Why don't we take a break so that we can have some conversation in intermission? Come back and have some more tea.